Hey guys, Dream Phoenix coming at you. It has been 1 year since Ever Crisis launched around the world, answering a question that many of us had. How relevant, how connected would it be to the Remake, Reunion, Rebirth anthology? That was answered quickly and categorically upon the initial release, and has only been expanded upon, both factually and very emotionally. Ever Crisis is building a story for what has been experienced since 2020, as well as what will be experienced at Journey's End. It's all one. Everything. It can all be found in creation, and what one person feels and experiences will be in their memories for all other bodily manifestations to potentially remember and act upon. Ever Crisis is the source of an Everest of beauty and horror. So let's get into it. In the initial release, there were 3 chapters for the Final Fantasy VII possibility. Very quickly, contrasts were being drawn to Remake, especially for the newer crowd who don't remember 1997. Seeing a Cloud who is so standoffish, borderline rude, very dissimilar to the Cloud of Remake, who is awkward but open to romance. There are specific moments that follow in the continuity of the original timeline, but also those of Remake. Cloud's relationship with Tifa, the pizza date with Jesse, Avalanche, Local Forest, Labrat Dog, and now it's with Rufus. Sephiroth has the baleful stare, just as he did in the original, which is dissimilar to the much more aloof to the situation around him version witnessed in Rebirth. But in my opinion, the most poignant of all was the sunrise at the end of Chapter 3, when the heroes are on the highway. In Ever Crisis, it is here that they make the decision to journey forward together, not on the bluffs nearby. If you remember the cover art of Remake, it was upon a dawn that we never got to see. Instead, we were treated with a dusk, as well as a gathering storm. Symbolism haunted with meaning that was then given to us in 2024. But what of Crisis Core? Zack of Ever Crisis is very similar to his Reunion self, similar to his Rebirth self. The contrast between him and Cloud is night and day. Irrelevant the situation, Zack remains Zack, whereas it almost seems as if there is more than one Cloud. But Ever Crisis exists as more than just a series of contrasts and similarities. In First Soldier, right at the beginning, we observe that this is occurring in the Beagle timeline because there's the Beagle stamp there in the aircraft. And as far as I remember, this is the only example of stamp in all of Ever Crisis. So what does this mean though? To me, it's a bit of a eureka. This does mean that the Glen strife we observe in Rebirth is the one that we love from Ever Crisis. It means that the Sephiroth, that the beloved younger self that we have come to know, directly ties into this future self with the longer hair. But far more meteorically. It means that observations and conclusions made in one affect the other, that what seems to be true in the other will hold fast in the one. So for instance, we know that because the First Soldier timeline occurs in the Beagle possibility, it's safe to assume that all of Ever Crisis can be found in creation, the same creation that insane Sephiroth floated through in its true nature. Taking all of this in hand, today's exploration will look closely at 2 individuals, 2 gods, Sephiroth and Cloud. Beginning with the One-Winged Angel, Ever Crisis opens in the Nibelheim reactor. We know it's the Nibelheim reactor because the date on the wall is 1968, which is when this reactor was commissioned. This cutscene, where Sephiroth talks about emotions and memories forming all of reality, very much as he would by different words in Rebirth. But why? Why does all of Ever Crisis begin here? Before any other cutscenes, you can't even begin Final Fantasy VII without going through this, and you cannot skip it. What is so important about Nibelheim? Well, which Sephiroth is this? Is this Watashi, the evil insane god? That was his self-referential vernacular after the Nibelheim incident. Or is this Ore Sephiroth? That was the self-referential vernacular that Sephiroth used before the Nibelheim incident, as well as the one at the edge of creation. This is why Ever Crisis begins here. It was in this spot where Ore died and Watashi was born. This is the Terminator separation between the 2 divergent aspects of Sephiroth. as will be the subject of a video to come, including in the deep dives about the ending. Upon the moment of reunion, when there is only one world, one timeline, which Sephiroth will remain dominant? Just hold on to the thought. What else do we see in this very revelatory, almost prophetic opening scene? Sephiroth is obsessed with Cloud. Nothing unique there. However, when Cloud clutches his head, as he has done many times in the past, with the context given in the true nature of reality, the only time that Cloud did this, floating with Sephiroth, was when a world was forcefully and unnaturally created, and then we were taken to a future memory where Cloud is turned into a robed man. So it seems that when realities are forcefully and unnaturally forced together, Cloud has that reaction. So it makes sense as Sephiroth approaches him that he would suffer this. But then what happens next is equally revelatory. Zack appears from nowhere. He's a wild card. What is he even doing there? It would seem that even on a cosmic level, on the level that Sephiroth is aware of, Zack is unintended. He was not part of the plan. He appears from a literal blind spot, darkness, where Sephiroth cannot see. Revealed before us is that when Zack survived at the end of Remake and was discussed from Zack's perspective in Rebirth, this was not part of Sephiroth's plan. Zack is a true wildcard, and considering that across realities he remains the dauntless hero, he is quite the dangerous wildcard. After reunion, the first soldier concludes, for the first time since the launch of Ever Crisis, more than one chapter is released simultaneously, and they're so emotionally impactful that some people wondered why was this scene not included in Rebirth, as it reveals so much of what is going on with this ultimate antagonist. We observe that Sephiroth's true mother, whose face is held in a locket, that locket is now in the Lifestream. It is not gone, it is in the Lifestream. We observe that Sephiroth's one wing is made of Cloud. No coincidence, Cloud. We observe that Ore Sephiroth, the non-insane one, was able to, by himself, ideate that hatred leads to hatred. It's a cycle, but it's a cycle that can be broken. We observe that Sephiroth, bereft of the influence of Jenova, is exactly what Zack saw in him, is exactly what Cloud saw in him. He is a hero. But then what starts to happen is where the terror begins. This memory of awkward Sephiroth, the glorious hero, is being attacked by Jenova. There's two ways to explain this. One, Sephiroth at the edge of creation, so future Sephiroth, is remembering the moment when Jenova began to attack him. Or two, the memory itself is being attacked by Jenova. So this moment, when it initially occurred, there was no Jenova intrusion. But now that reunion has begun, Jenova and Watashi Insane Sephiroth is attacking it. Because remember, once reunion is complete, there can only be one. Now let's take a trip down memory lane to Lifestream Black by Nojima-san, who is the scenario writer for Remake and Rebirth, as well as a writer for the original Final Fantasy VII. In Lifestream Black, I believe this takes place after Meteor Fall. The vanquished Sephiroth does not want to disintegrate into the Lifestream, or at least he assumes that's what's going to happen. Aerith also assumes this, so it's reasonable to believe that that is what happens, but we don't actually know. But Sephiroth believes it, and he does not want that. And Sephiroth comes up with the idea that so long as Cloud remembers him, Sephiroth can continue to exist. That explains much of the phenomena observed in Remake. All of the various memories Cloud has of Sephiroth, when Sephiroth appears, it seems to closely follow that memory, right up until the end, of course, and Jenova, which are both independent. But in Lifestream Black, Sephiroth also observes his memories from before the Nibelheim incident, and he doesn't want them, so he casts them off, believing that they will be destroyed. But we observed in Chapter 14 of Rebirth, on the dream date and in the true nature of reality, that these memories, these alternative perspectives, are whole worlds. They are not nebulous from every perspective. From certain perspectives, they are 3D space-time, just as the Beagle timeline or the original timeline are. So that would mean that Ore Sephiroth, the non-insane one, these memories, these worlds that were cast aside, are still out there. Something that I have wondered. Why would this non-insane Sephiroth sit at the edge of creation, outside of everything? Why would he make the very cryptic statement, "Our world will join it one day, creation, but I will not end"? Why does he believe that this world joining creation would result in him ending? Because there can only be one. This will be explored more in the deep dives coming up. And in closing on Sephiroth, the Sephiroth that remembered having to murder Rosen. The Sephiroth who said there's 7 seconds until the end. Reunion has begun, and there can only be one. So when will Ore Sephiroth, when will he become more aggressive? And then the prodigal question would be, if it comes to pass that this memory is not a memory of Jenova attacking, it is Jenova attacking a memory. Why now? What do I mean by because reunion has started? The only way that would be possible is if all of these worlds exist simultaneously, something that we observed on the dream date as well as very clearly in the true nature of reality. All of these orbs existed all at the same time, and some sort of a sequential order. That is the answer. Reunion has happened, and now all of these worlds, these memories that exist in the eternal present now, are under threat. If you want to know what Jenova attacking a memory looks like, in the teaser trailer for The First Soldier Episode 2, reality itself is shifting. As the reality itself on the camcorder is shifting, as there seems to be a convergence of time between a freestanding human being and a roamed man. All of these things are quite familiar now, thanks to Rebirth. The Japanese voice is talking about strange disturbances that need to be investigated. I don't believe this is a memory of strange disturbances. The strange disturbance is an attack upon a memory, which is the whole world, especially the people who are most closely entangled with Sephiroth. We will find out. This is Lovecraftian level horror. But is it accurate? One would expect that if these memories can exist sequentially as well as simultaneously, that it would manifest like this uniformly, because it's cosmic. That is exactly what we observe, most obviously in Chapter 14 of Rebirth. On the dream date, when Zack makes a decision, we observe another world being created. But when do these worlds exist relative to each other? These worlds exist simultaneously. That's what we observe in the true nature of reality. However, reality itself seems to remember that Zack chose to rescue Cloud because the Zack that faces a storm of bullets, again, has a pink ribbon on his hand. But the one that rescues Biggs and doesn't seem to know why he's there does not have a pink ribbon on his hand. The Zack who faces off against Sephiroth also does not have a pink ribbon on his hand. But reality is not the only one to remember, to have these memories inside themselves, very much like Wedge of Remake was able to remember the future, almost as if it's somewhere inside him. Zack of the Biggs timeline, the Pug timeline, when he's about to face tragedy again, this is the first instance we see him angry. He is upset that this keeps happening to him, but how would he know unless somewhere inside him he knows this is now the 3rd time he has met this exact same end. His stance is the same as it was in Crisis Core decades ago. And then the Zack we see on the stairs. He's pensive. He's considering his options. He's calculating. This is the stark opposite of the puppy that Angeal would berate him to be. Almost as if he has learned what keeps happening to him when he storms into a situation. But that would mean he's starting to remember. And of course, the final 2 Zacks we see, which is presumably the one on the stairs, he clearly remembers what has happened. And in these 2 instances of Zack, it is much more intuitive that worlds exist independent of each other, but they can have a sequential order. And in the true nature of reality, we observe all of these balls of light which reveal themselves to be memories, dreams, worlds. The words are now interchangeable. They exist all at the same time. However, we know from the journey of Remake, from what Zack goes through, and so on, that there is a linear sequential order. Now, a brief aside from all of this, there is beauty in having this quantum weirdness. Which date did Cloud go on? Which Skywheel date? You don't actually have to choose. You can ship hard someone and still be in love with the other dates. Which one did Cloud go on? Until you measure something on the other side that collapses the timeline to a single outcome, Cloud went on all of them. If the timeline is collapsed, an example of that would be in Chapter 4 of Remake. Did Cloud say yes to Jesse or no to Jesse? Well, we know in Chapter 8 of Rebirth that Cloud said yes. So in the consciousness of the Beagle timeline, Cloud said yes to the pizza date. But back to the Skywheel dates. Even if it's proven in the future that Cloud went on the guy's night out, Skywheel date, he still went on all of them, because that is what we observed with Zack. Superposition. So you can ship someone and still it's okay. You can love the other dates. But what does all of this have to do with Ever Crisis? Remember, what's applicable in one is uniform in the other. That would mean that all of the worlds of Ever Crisis are simultaneous as well as sequential. But more importantly, the beauty, and this is where we shift to Cloud. It seems that the Mako warrior, who in Ever Crisis is a bumhole, gets to benefit from what other Clouds have learned. It's true, the hero's journey, the philosopher's journey, the sad tale of the sorcerer's apprentice, all of them are not just a beginning and a destination. It is the journey in between that makes the person. Nevertheless, Cloud's journey, no matter what it is, and same with all of the heroes, is so arduous that I know I am not the only one that just wishes that they could learn a little bit from what another version of themselves have already done. Just as Zack did. Consider again those Skywheel dates. If they exist simultaneously, which one would Cloud go on first? Well, the devs told us that according to the algorithms, if you went on every side quest and you 3-starred every side quest whenever you could, then Barrett had 26, Tifa and Aerith had 23, and Yuffie and Nanakai had 24 or 25. But the important one is if you did all the side quests, Barrett is the one you would get first. And what happens on the Barrett Skywheel date? He tells Cloud, you have to share your feelings while you still have time to do so. In the broader context of Final Fantasy, it's almost as if Barrett's an oracle, but also in the micro context, because then which two dates would occur at the end after the Barrett date? Tifa and Aerith, and on both dates, there was a question asked by each girl. When Tifa made the comment about, was she just hoping, and Cloud went in to hug her, he was saying yes. When Aerith saddled up to Cloud and held herself against him, he had to answer yes or no. By accepting her touching him, it was yes. But in both cases, Cloud did not stop there. The Cloud we're familiar with certainly would have. In both cases, he took it a step further, and he didn't have to. He kissed Tifa. He grabbed Aerith, taking her hand and never letting her go. Almost as if he heard what Barrett said. But again, how does this apply to Ever Crisis? Remember what we opened with. The Cloud of Ever Crisis is just as cold, if not colder, than the Mako Warrior from 1997. Humorously so at times. And yet, on the Midsummer's Night Dream, which is a Shakespearean play, unbidden, Cloud goes from an individual that we're familiar with in that possibility to not even being asked a question. And he's initiating, expressing himself. He's being vulnerable. And when the environment rises up to oppose him connecting with his loves, he overcomes them, again unbidden. This is unlike any Cloud we have ever seen, let alone the one from Ever Crisis. He is expressing himself beautifully, with emotion, with connection. The way he talks to Aerith is unique to his relationship with Aerith. The way he talks to Tifa is unique to his relationship with Tifa. But where's it coming from? It doesn't make any sense. Yes, it's romantic, but so was the Skywheel date, and Cloud was not like this on the Skywheel date. It's almost as if this Cloud, somewhere inside his memories, is how little time he has with the people he loves. And what Barrett told him to do. You have to tell people how you feel while you still have time. Yes, at the end of Rebirth, Tifa lives on, but there is a yawning chasm between her and Cloud. And considering Cloud's final line to Barrett and Tifa, he is not ignorant to the wound that exists between them now. It's good that Cloud has remembered Barrett's words, because you don't know how much time you have. Where does this all lead as we approach another year of Ever Crisis? As Journey's End, whenever it will release, is now 6 months closer. Both Ore Sephiroth, the non-insane one, and Cloud have these memories now inside them, come what may on all worlds, both the sad and the heart-touchingly beautiful. And this point was affirmed before our eyes at the close of A Midsummer's Night Dream. imagination adventurers. Until next time, I bid thee adieu.